There you have it.
All right, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. Let's bring in right now the host of MSNBC Hardball on the BC's Chris Matthews Show. He is, of course, Chris Matthews. Chris, there is so much to talk to you about. Let's start with this New York Times story. New York Times, Obama war on terror resembles Bush. Quietly signals continued support for some approaches. I know that's going to upset his base and upset a lot of people that voted for him, but is that just the reality after you get the first security briefing?
Why, I think voters hope it's not just the reality. They hope that there'll be no approach to Iraq. Many of the voters who voted for Barack Obama, most of them thought it was a mistake to go into Iraq. They wonder how you can make it the right policy by staying there. If it was a mistake, it was a mistake. You try to cut your losses.
Right, but we're talking
about Afghanistan.
Yeah, the war.
Afghanistan is much more.
Yeah, but let's talk about the war on terror first, where they're talking about. He's now talking about transferring prisoners to other countries without rights, right. and also indefinite suspensions, indefinite interrogations, and keeping people in jail for a while.
Well, I think the problem with the war on terror is a term I don't really like either. But let's go on. It seems to me that the problem is that you have people who are dangerous but haven't committed crimes you could convict them of in a criminal court or even in a military court. So what do you do with those people? I found that to be a conundrum. I don't know the answer. I think if people have made it clear they want to hurt the United States, and you release them back into their countries again, let them go off and join Al-Qaeda out there in the wilderness somewhere, Pakistan, you let them just come right back and try to kill us again? I don't know the answer to that question, Joe. That's a tough one.
But the thing is, though, if that was such a moral crisis in 2007 and 2008, as Barack Obama said it was, holding all these people, he's now saying we're going to hold them even longer and ship them overseas. If that did great violence to the Constitution in 2007 and 2008, doesn't it do even greater violence in 2009 and 2010 if we keep holding them?
Well, you're talking the politics of it. I'm trying to figure out what to do. I don't know.
No. I'm talking the morality of it. If he's preaching morality for the past 2 years, and he comes in and he keeps the same policies he said made Dick Cheney immoral and hate the Constitution, is he not the same as Dick Cheney?
I think he's not the same as Dick Cheney. I think Dick Cheney had a very clear position about waterboarding and had very clear policy about what you call the war on terror and very clear policy about how to treat people who are suspects, which would have been the toughest policy, certainly. And certainly he supported the war in Iraq, and Barack Obama opposed the war in Iraq. And they have different views about where the focus should be in this war on terror, if you call it that, which, according to Barack Obama, is the border with Pakistan.
By the way, I didn't invent that term, war on terror, Chris, by the way. I didn't invent that. I just...
No, but I think we might be better off to de-invent it.
What do we call it? I like changing
terms. I think you fight the enemy, the people that have sworn their hatred of the United States and intend to hurt us whatever way they can.
That's not as catchy, though. That's a war on terror. That's not as catchy as a war on terror. War on terror,
no, that would be like after 1941 declaring war on surprise attacks. We declared war on the Empire of Japan.
Hey, let's talk about Afghanistan. You talk about a conundrum.
Don't confuse the method with the enemy.
I think we should fight surprise attacks.
Afghanistan is a real problem, and why not fight a war against surprise attacks? I want to win that war. So let's talk about Afghanistan. There, we were talking to Dr. Brzezinski yesterday. There are no good alternatives there, are there?
I find it a money pit, and I worry the government of Pakistan has tried to cut now a separate peace with the Taliban in the Swat province there, an area that we don't know anything about. We've been fighting that war between East and West since Churchill fought in the Malakand Field Force back in the 19th century. That's been uncharted territory. I've got a whole pile of reading stuff to try to figure it out. I'm not sure if Barack Obama understands what's going on in that part of Pakistan, which was once part of India. It's uncontrolled by the central government of Pakistan, and we hope to control it.
Hey, Chris, by the way,
and that's the problem.
Have you ever read The Looming Tower by Larry Wright? Lawrence,
No,
right?
but people love it.
I'm
People
telling you
love it.
seriously, if you, and I say this to everybody at home, if you want to figure out Pakistan, Afghanistan, the history of all this, Lawrence Wright, The Looming Tower, probably the indispensable book on this topic. We've got a guy, not a money pit guy, a money party guy, Dylan Radigan here. He wants to ask you a quick question.
Real quick, Chris, where do you think he has the most leverage to do something to differentiate himself? To Joe's point, saying, well, he's doing the same thing as Cheney with the undefined threat. Where can Obama most quickly differentiate himself from the predecessor administration on both Iraq and Afghanistan?
Well, I think there has always been an argument about whether we should have gone to Iraq. So that really is an argument about whether we should have gone after Osama bin Laden and his forces directly after they attacked us on 9/11, or we should have diversified the war and gone after other enemies of the United States. If you go back to the original argument and trace it from there, I guess you'd have to say the real focus under Barack Obama should be logically going after Osama bin Laden on that border territory, putting all our focus on trying to destroy that organization, rather than trying to pick up the pieces in Iraq, which I'm not sure is going to end up being all that great 10 years from now anyway, no matter what we do. And Afghanistan, I think we're going to have to find some way of getting out of there. I think the challenge is this. The people who stay rule. The people who leave don't. We learned that in Vietnam. If the people on the other side want to wait us out, as they're going to do in Iraq, whether it's Sistani or al-Sadr, they're all going to wait us out. Or the generals over there we're training who could end up being perhaps the future Saddam Husseins. We don't know. We don't even know what side we're on, the Sunni or the Shia. We don't know that. But we're going to leave eventually. And that's the policy we have to establish. All right. At some time, leave Afghanistan as well as Iraq, set that in our heads and figure out what's the best we can do on the way out the door. I would argue the best thing we can do on the way out the door is destroy bin Laden and al-Qaeda. That would be the best policy.
Chris, let's move on to another topic, because Willie and I